The first scream came long before anyone realized they were about to die. It echoed through the narrow cabin like a crack in reality itself, sharp, terrified, and contagious. Within seconds, the calm chatter of tourists turned into chaos. Oxygen masks trembled loose above trembling heads, luggage fell from overhead bins, and the aircraft shuddered violently as if caught in an invisible storm. Somewhere near the cockpit, a flight attendant collapsed, her face pale with fear. And in the middle of it all, she sat quietly. A young woman in a simple beige sweater, faded jeans, and worn-out sneakers. Her hair was loosely tied, her expression unreadable. To everyone else, she was just another tourist, unnoticed, unimportant, invisible. Until everything began to fall apart. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden strength within ordinary people, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your presence matters more than you know. The aircraft had taken off just under an hour ago from a coastal city, filled with families, honeymooners, students, and dreamers. There were 320 souls on board, each carrying their own story, their own destination, their own unfinished chapter. Among them was Emily Carter. No one noticed her boarding. No one noticed her settling into seat 27A by the window. She didn't draw attention. She didn't speak much. She simply watched, the clouds, the sky, the subtle rhythm of the engines. But Emily Carter wasn't just another passenger. She had spent years training her mind to remain calm when everything else burned. Years learning how to read the language of machines, of wind, of danger. Years carrying a past she never spoke about, a past that had once cost her everything. And now, fate was calling her back. The turbulence worsened. The plane dropped suddenly, sending a wave of screams crashing through the cabin. A child cried uncontrollably. A man clutched his seat, whispering prayers under his breath. The overhead lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced like ghosts across frightened faces. Then came the announcement, broken, distorted, barely audible. The captain's voice struggled through static, strained and unnatural. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, irreversibly wrong. Emily's eyes shifted. Not panicked. Not confused. Focused. She unbuckled her seatbelt slowly, as if she had already accepted what needed to be done. Around her, people were frozen in fear, unable to move, unable to think. But Emily moved against the current of chaos, her steps steady, her breathing controlled. A flight attendant tried to stop her, voice shaking, hands trembling. Emily gently held her shoulders, her gaze firm but calm, silently asking for trust. There was something in her eyes, something that cut through the fear. Authority. She moved forward. Every step toward the cockpit felt heavier than the last, not because of the danger, but because of the memories clawing their way back into her mind. The last time she had walked this path, everything had gone wrong. The last time she had taken control, lives had been lost. She had promised herself she would never do it again. But promises mean nothing when lives are on the line. Inside the cockpit, the situation was worse than anyone imagined. One of the pilots was unconscious. The other was struggling, overwhelmed, fighting a losing battle against failing systems and uncontrollable descent. Warning alarms screamed relentlessly, flashing red lights painting the cockpit in urgency and fear. For a moment, Emily hesitated. Not because she didn't know what to do, but because she remembered. The failure, the guilt, the silence that followed. Then she looked at the horizon, unstable, dangerous, slipping away. And she stepped in. Her hands moved with precision, muscle memory guiding her where fear could not. She assessed instruments, recalibrated controls, adjusted thrust, stabilized what little remained functional. Her voice, though calm, carried a weight that commanded attention, and the struggling pilot beside her slowly let go, realizing that somehow, impossibly, help had arrived. Outside, the storm thickened. Inside, hope flickered. The aircraft was losing altitude dangerously fast. Systems were failing one by one, like dominoes falling into darkness. But Emily didn't panic. She adapted. Every decision was calculated, every movement deliberate. She wasn't just reacting. She was flying. Minutes stretched like hours. Every second was a battle against gravity, against fear, against the ticking clock that threatened to end 320 lives in a single, devastating moment. Passengers began to notice something changing. The violent shaking softened. The descent slowed. The screams faded into cautious silence. Something, or someone, was fighting back. Emily's breathing remained steady, but inside, a storm of emotion raged. She wasn't just saving strangers. She was confronting the version of herself she had buried long ago. The pilot she once was. The woman who had walked away after a single failure defined her entire existence. But this time, she refused to fail. The nearest emergency runway came into view, distant but possible. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was a chance. And sometimes, a chance is all you need. The final approach was brutal. Winds resisted. Systems lagged. The aircraft groaned under pressure. Every nerve in Emily's body was alive, every instinct sharpened to its peak. She adjusted, corrected, fought for balance. The ground rushed closer. Passengers held their breath. And then, impact. A violent jolt shook the plane as wheels met the runway. The aircraft skidded, engines screaming, metal straining against force. For a terrifying moment, it felt like it might break apart. But it didn't. Slowly, impossibly, it came to a stop. Silence. Then, crying. Relief. Uncontrolled, overwhelming emotion flooded the cabin as people realized they were alive. Strangers hugged. Tears fell freely. Fear melted into gratitude. 320 lives. Saved. And in the cockpit, Emily Carter sat still, her hands resting on the controls, her eyes fixed ahead. Not triumphant. Not proud. Just, quiet. When authorities rushed in and the truth began to unfold, the question echoed again and again. Who was she? And when they finally learned the answer, it left everyone speechless. Emily Carter was not a tourist. She was a former commercial pilot, one who had disappeared years ago after a tragic accident that ended her career and shattered her confidence. She had chosen anonymity over redemption, silence over explanation. Until today. Until this moment forced her to return. As she stepped out of the aircraft, away from the cameras, away from the chaos, no applause followed her. No spotlight held her back. Because she didn't stay. She simply walked away, just as quietly as she had arrived. But this time, she wasn't running. She was free. And maybe, just maybe, forgiveness had found her too. Before this story comes to an end, take a moment and comment the word hope. If you believe people deserve a second chance, your voice might inspire someone who needs it today. Stories like Emily's remind us that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they sit quietly beside us, carrying invisible battles, waiting for the moment when courage demands everything they have left. And when that moment comes, they rise. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more powerful, emotional stories like this to life. Stories that remind us of humanity, resilience, and the strength hidden inside ordinary people.